Hello and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. Today, my incredible guest, Dean Harris. He's the CEO and co-founder of TabBrands. Of course, this is the show where I get to talk about sports, I get to talk about business, I get to talk about everything in between, and I'm excited to have Dean here with me. Dean, how you doing today, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show, Michael.
The pleasure is all mine. Excited to talk about TabBrands, excited to talk about CBD and exactly how you think it might fit into this athlete and sports world. But Dean, the first question, of course, that I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
Uh, I love sports because I love playing and I love watching, and I have a long history with New York teams. I'm an avid fan of what used to be the Brooklyn Dodgers, now the Los Angeles Dodgers. We had a good
Congratulations.
right, and I'm also I bleed giant blue. My grandfather actually lived in the same building as Wellington Mara, and they were the older Wellington Mara, and they were going up in the elevator in 1927, and the guy said to my grandfather, "Do me a favor, please take these 2 season tickets." So my family had season tickets to the Giants for 60 plus years. So as a kid, I went to every Giant game from when I was little, like 4, until I went off to college, and that was a period when the Giants were really great. I had great character. I guess they still have character, but they're not so great these days.
Yeah, not so great, and I don't really know exactly what that character is at this point, but I'm
But
still gonna watch every game. I can
yeah,
promise you
but
that.
yeah, me too. But every week they tear my heart out.
Yes.
Uh, but that's from the spectator perspective. From the playing perspective, when I was young and in school, I played lots of sports: baseball, soccer. I swam. In college, I played soccer. I played baseball. I played squash. So I mean, I've been a participant as well as a spectator for my whole life.
Staying active, staying healthy, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah,
And why not
absolutely.
add a little competition to it? Makes everything a little bit more fun.
I agree. I agree. And there certainly is competition in the space that we're going to talk about today, um, and competition that I think we're doing fairly well in. So be happy to talk about that as well.
Man, I think that we call that a segue in the business. That's a
Yeah,
good one, Dean. You've done this before, haven't you?
I have. I have.
Once or twice. Once
I
or
have.
twice. Well, hey, I am very excited to talk about CBD and terpenes, which you'll kind of give us the definition and everything we need to understand there. I guess where did this idea come from for you? TabBrands, when did you say,
Sure.
hey, I want to get into the CBD game?
Sure. Well, interestingly, it does have a sports history. I don't think we ever talked about this, but after years and years and years of physical inactivity, I started working out with a trainer. And this guy said, I invented this great product and it's going to revolutionize the personal training industry. I figured out a way to deliver protein supplement in a more convenient way. Will you help me write my patent? So I said, sure. So I helped the guy write his patent. We wrote it, though, in a very broad sense. We wrote it as a delivery patent, not just as a way to deliver protein more efficiently. And as it turned out, once we got the provisional, we started looking around for applications, and the cannabis market just jumped out at me because there was this gigantic market. It represented a wonderful alternative to prescribed pharmaceuticals. We were in the health and wellness side, are in the health and wellness side, as opposed to the recreational side. I have no issues with recreational, but we just felt more comfortable building our brand around around medicinal. And at that point, which was a couple of years ago, medicinal cannabis in the United States was roughly a $7 billion category with no brands. So I spent my whole career doing marketing, branding, and advertising, and I saw this as a fantastic opportunity to produce a great product that did great good, but also in a category that had a lack of emphasis in marketing and branding, and also nobody controlled the narrative. There was nobody speaking for the category. So we then started inventing. We put together a team, a group of formulators. Our first product actually was in the cannabis space. It was a product that used a cannabinoid called THCA, which delivers the benefits of cannabis, but it's non-psychotropic. And then at the end of 2018, the Farm Bill passed, a new Farm Bill passed, which in effect opened up the CBD market. So we took our technology to try to apply it to CBD, and we were able to do that, and that's been really really successful. And I'd be happy to just give you a little riff on what the technology is, if that's of interest.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Teach
sure.
me everything.
Okay, so cannabinoids and many plant-based ingredients are oil based in effect, and as we all remember from high school chemistry, oil and water don't mix. So what a lot of folks do in the CBD and the cannabis space is that they use techniques that make the active ingredient appear to dissolve in liquid, but it doesn't. They use something called nanoparticle technology, which means you grind it down into a very small size. It looks like it's dissolving, but it's so small that it can't be seen by the naked eye, and it's actually in emulsion. And other people use other microemulsion techniques, but we figured out actually how to take these oil-based substances and make them truly water soluble without using nano and without using microemulsion. And that really was a great breakthrough, because the science behind this suggests that the truly water soluble CBD is dramatically more bioavailable, meaning it gets into your body faster, quicker, lasts longer, need less of it than lipid soluble. And as far as we know, we're the only water soluble CBD in the world, and that's why our product seems to be more effective and work better. So that's what we've done. We've taken that same technology and applied it to lots of oil-based plant-derived substances. So I mean, in effect, we're sort of in the plant-based wellness business, if you want to be grand about it. But it's really been fascinating, because it's a category that, again, hasn't received a lot of scientific attention, has not received a huge amount of investment, and we feel like we're doing some great work at the beginning of what's going to be a very large category.
Yeah, I think it's only getting bigger too, right? Like we're seeing it continue and continue and continue. And as I was talking about before, you listen to any podcast, you listen to or watch anything digitally, I feel like you see a cannabis commercial every, 3, 4, 5 commercials at this point. Linear TV, you don't really see it as much, but I would not be surprised if it starts to creep into the market there. And you bring up, some interesting I hope, first off, I hope you guys have patented the technology as
We
well.
have.
I think that
Yeah.
part, I think it kind of goes without saying,
Yeah,
right?
well,
And
no, we have it. As I said, we have our patent pending process, and we think we're months away from getting our full patent, which will be great. Every indication from our patent attorneys and from the government is we're going to get our patent soon, and what that means is it gives us, in effect, the ability to take any oil-based substance and make it water soluble, because it's a delivery system patent.
exactly.
We wrote it quite broadly, and interestingly, every time we add something to the mix, like we'll talk about terpenes a little bit later, but when we were able to make botanical terpenes water soluble, we checked the patent filing to see if anybody else was doing it, and nobody's doing it. So I feel very good about our patent possibilities.
Keep doing whatever you're doing, Dean. I think it's fantastic. And so obviously, CBD it's much more acceptable, I guess. THC, though, is becoming more acceptable, right? It's something that, hey, we all went to college. Like, let's not, whatever. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, but
here in New Jersey.
Yeah, but we didn't inhale, according to.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not. No. Nope.
Right.
Nope. Not doing that. Not doing that. But I appreciate it. Not doing
Okay.
that. But no, it's it's obviously, we all. I feel like it's much more accepted within the home, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think anybody's going out and about screaming that they do it, but I feel like so many people don't really care about it. And as you can start seeing, more and more states are starting to legalize it through popular votes, New Jersey being one of them.
Right. There were 5 states that legalized it additionally during this last election period. But the majority of U.S. states and more than 85% of the U.S. population has access to medicinal cannabis. And in fact, if you look at studies, like we got through this big election. One of the big election polling things was the Quinnipiac poll from here in Connecticut, and the last Quinnipiac poll said that something like 93% of all U.S. adults believe that medicinal cannabis should be legalized. I mean, you can't get 93% of Americans to agree on anything. So that's significant. And I think one of the reasons people favor medicinal cannabis and um, plant-based medicine in general is because it works and it represents a dramatic alternative to prescribed pharmaceuticals. In
Hmm.
fact, when we did our formal marketing work, we wrote a Procter and Gamble style communication strategy. We perceive our competition to be prescribed pharmaceuticals, not other CBD and cannabis brands. And I think that the bulk of people that have tried and used our product have used it because for one reason or another, they've tried prescribed pharmaceuticals and it either doesn't work or they have unwanted side effects. So that is that I think that's a nice path and one where we can help people all over the world.
It's also something that comes from the ground, right? I always feel better, like the food that I put in my body and
Right.
anything that goes in my body. I would prefer it to be something that comes from the ground
Right.
rather than something, created in a lab somewhere,
No,
right?
that's
That's just
true.
a personal
That,
thing.
that's true. I mean, our products are all plant based. The ingredients that we use to make them water soluble are all FDA approved and food grade, meaning they're all natural and commonly available. And of course, all of our ingredients are made in the USA. So we've built, I think, a pretty robust and interesting and an exceptional supply chain where we grow and process and produce in the US in this is not going to mean much to most people, but we're in certified good manufacturing practices facilities. And for the cannabis space, that's unusual. And you know what that means is that the production facilities get inspected and they're up to standard for any food or beverage
Mhm.
product. But we just want to make certain that our brand is top rate, and we're delivering a product that is pure, the offers the potency we're promising, and is manufactured under optimal conditions.
Interesting. And I guess so you bring up something that I'm kind of curious about, right? You're a brand guy, you're a marketing guy. In terms of CBD, right? We're seeing all these other brands pop up now. We're seeing athletes invest into them, which I think we'll get to in a second. But what is the difference between CBD from brand A versus CBD from brand B? Is the chemical property different? I mean, potency, as you said, I mean, more is more, right? So like
Yeah,
what's the
well,
actual difference between the CBD and in the brands outside of the
sure,
brand itself?
sure. Well, the CBD active ingredient is typically one of three things. It's either CBD isolate, which is only CBD. It's full spectrum CBD, which includes some additional cannabinoids. And there is broad spectrum CBD, which includes some additional cannabinoids, but no THC. THC is the intoxicating part of the plant.
Hmm.
So we only use broad spectrum. We feel that's the highest quality. Broad spectrum offers something that's called the entourage effect, which was invented by an Israeli scientist in the late 1970s, and that means more health and wellness benefits because in effect, you're getting the whole plant. But
Hmm.
in our case, we're offering those whole plant benefits, but we're not offering any intoxication. So that's one thing. The other thing that could be different is the delivery system. Uh, one can ingest CBD, or one can use CBD anyway. I mean, the ways that many people see now are as a topical. You put it on your skin. Um, there is a method called tincture where you put a little drop under your tongue. They're edibles. We're approaching it incredibly differently. Ours is a water soluble effervescent powder. It mixes in any hot or cold beverage, and we think that form edible is preferable. There's no smoking and vaping involved. One can integrate it into your daily life. And in the case of our CBD mix and powder product, it's a powder that can be added to any hot or cold liquid, and it actually has no flavor, taste, or color. It takes on the flavor of that liquid. So if you were to put it in chicken soup, it would taste like chicken soup. If you were to put it in water, it would taste like water. If you were to put it in iced tea, it would taste like iced tea. So we think offering a CBD product that can be used as part of one's daily life, that's flexible, that tastes good, that doesn't taste bad, that doesn't have an odor, is a gigantic advantage. And I'm not certain as to whether all CBD brands can say that. And there's something else. And again, I don't know what all CBD brands do, but what we do is we make certain that the purity and potency of our product is what we claim it to be. And I'm not certain if that's the same case for all CBD companies. If we say we're delivering a 10 milligram dose, you get a 10 milligram dose.
Hmm.
That's not the case with everybody, unfortunately.
Yeah, it because it is such a new industry, right? And it's kind of cousins to THC, which is, I mean, I don't know if you've ever had to deal with any of those guys, but it's never a very easy thing to do, in the illegal sense, I guess. But it's just one of those things where I think, the more it's regulated, the more people pay attention to it. I think companies will be held to those standards of, you said it's 10 milligrams, that means you have to give
Yeah, it's
within
like,
zero point 0.1 of 10 milligrams, right?
yeah, I mean, the rule of thumb is it has to be within 10%. But I mean, it's sort of like going to the grocery store and buying a carton of 12 eggs. You open it up, there should be 12 eggs.
Hmm.
There shouldn't be 8 eggs or 3 eggs. And unfortunately, in the CBD space, one does not always get what you
Yeah.
think you're getting, and that makes using it and dosing tough, because you want to make sure that each time the dosage is correct.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's the difference between what we do and what others do. We're actually fairly crazed about that. I mean, we have a CBD tea product, for example, and we're delivering a dose of 10 milligrams, and we actually measure the amount of dose that's in the tea bag, and then once the cup of tea is brewed, we measure the brewed cup of tea to make sure that there's 10 milligrams in the brewed cup. I mean, that seems like everybody should do that, but everybody doesn't do that.
Right.
Um, anyway, that's that. But it's got our name on it, and
Hmm.
we want to set standards that we're proud of.
I love that. Yeah, and you right. You're the brand guy, you're the marketing guy. That comes back to you in some way, shape, or form. Because again, if you're lying to people or not being truthful, that might be a nicer way to say it. That's on you, right? And so I think it's important, as you
Sure.
said, your name's on it. So make
Well,
sure
not
that it is
not
what it
not
is.
just that. I mean, I do have a marketing background, and most of the products I've worked down throughout my career have been repeat purchase. So if you can get somebody to try something once or twice, but if the
Hmm.
product doesn't deliver, you're doing yourself a disservice, and it's just not going to it's not going to sustain. We want to make sure that we actually over deliver, so that our customers are happy and they keep coming back for more.
I love that. And so one thing that we've spoke a little bit about, but I would love to get down to the nitty gritty a little bit more with you is why CBD? Why all these CBD and THC products, right? It's something where it's becoming more and more effective and more accepted amongst just weekend warriors, people that want to go out and run
Sure.
on a 5K on the weekend, and they kind of feel like crap the next day because they only run a 5K once a weekend, right? So why, in your opinion, and I think we kind of know where we're going with this, but why, in your opinion, do you think CBD is so popular now and is really just kind of just starting the hyper growth phase?
Sure. Well, I mean, CBD really did start its hypergrowth phase after the passage of the 2018
Hmm.
Farm Bill, because what that did is that it in effect separated the way that hemp was treated versus the way cannabis was treated, and one can derive CBD either from hemp or from cannabis.
Hmm.
Uh, what we use is hemp derived CBD. Um, so CBD does a very good job of helping mitigate pain and inflammation, which is something that athletes have to deal with. And one of the advantages of CBD is that it does that without any addictive qualities, and it's non-psychotropic. You don't get high. So, what's the alternative? I mean, let's look at something like prescribed opioids. I mean, if you've ever had a serious injury, and many of us have, I mean, opioids do a fantastic job of eliminating severe pain or acute pain, as physicians would say, for the first 5 days, which is when it typically is acute. But after that, you have to worry about, possible addiction. But with CBD, it does do a great job of eliminating pain and inflammation. You can use it on an ongoing basis without having to worry about being addicted. And beyond that, if anybody here has ever taken prescribed opioids, it does have side effects more than just the possible addiction. So this represents a um, a nice alternative. And
Hmm.
of course, as it is plant based, um, it's all natural, and it can be integrated very easily into your life. So I think that's why CBD has become so popular, and why CBD versus THC. I mean, THC offers many of the same things, but CBD in many states has to be one needs a medical prescription,
Hmm.
um, and
THC, you mean, right? Okay.
THC, yeah, THC. You need a medical prescription, and that's just it's harder. Not all states have the same laws with
Hmm.
respect to what equals a condition where THC is appropriate. Now, interestingly, we do have a THC product. I mean, I believe, one of the only companies in the world that can take Delta 9 oil, which is THC, and make it into a water soluble powder. Um, but when one is working with THC, it all has to be done on a state by state basis. The product has to be grown, sold,
Hmm.
distributed, marketed, all within a given state. So for a big state like California, you have a chance. I mean, that's a $4 billion THC market. For a small state like Connecticut, where I live, um, it's problematic. There's just not enough customers, and the supply chain and the entire structure is far 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 more regulated. With CBD, one can manufacture centrally and then export throughout the United States, and in our case, globally. So, from business perspective, there are less constraints
Hmm.
with CBD than there are with THC.
And that makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. And then obviously the point you make compared to the opioids as well, I think I mean, I've had surgery before. I've had, some unnecessary happenings that I needed to take opioids, and I absolutely hated it. It is one of my
Yeah.
least
Well,
favorite things. It helps, but I feel like a zombie. I feel like just
well,
the
well
brain fog. It sucks. It just
they
sucks.
work, but
Yeah.
I mean, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to get some clinical studies done where we see either our THC product, our non-psychotropic THC product, which is using THCA, or our CBD product administered as sort of stage two after a period of
Hmm.
after an operation, after a period of extreme pain. And we think CBD especially would be a great phase two for people that have had issues with pain, have had operations. And we're in believe it or not, it's actually very hard to get clinical studies done in the
I
United
believe it.
States,
Yeah,
really hard.
I believe it.
Because many of the major medical schools are taking funding from the federal government for other things, and taking funding for THC, or for cannabis products, makes it problematic. We think we're close to getting a study done in the UK. I mean, it would be equally viable, with doctors and PhDs. But we'd love to be able to prove that this represents a fine alternative to prescribed opioids.
Well, if the um, big pharma companies can make money off of it, I'm sure it will eventually come
Well,
down the pipeline.
yeah, I mean, big pharma has exerted an incredible amount of pressure, both in the United States. Well, in the United States, big pharma, but there are other regulatory bodies outside of the United States. For example, in Europe, it's um, they have their own regulatory body. It's called Novel Foods, and they've exerted an amazing amount of pressure to kind of stop the spread and the use of CBD. But we have a way around this that I'd love to talk about, if you don't mind. You alluded to it
Yeah.
earlier. So again, we're in the plant-based wellness business, and we recently meeting in the last couple of months, have invented a, a way of delivering wellness benefits without using CBD,
Hmm.
using something that are called botanical terpenes. So botanical terpenes come from fruits, plants, and vegetables. They don't come from cannabis. They don't come from hemp. Interestingly, they deliver many of the same health and wellness benefits as CBD or cannabis, but they're non-psychotropic, and there's no THC or CBD in them. So regulation is not an issue. And the standard for this stuff, like for example, in the United States, uh, the FDA says that a food has to be consumed regularly by people prior to 1997 for it to be sort of grandfathered in. Well, I mean, we're making our botanical terpenes out of grapes and oranges. I mean, it's hard to argue that people have
Mm.
not been eating grapes and oranges prior to 1997. They've been eating it for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. So we've had a ton of interest in our water soluble botanical terpenes products because it does deliver the benefits I suggested, but there are not going to be any constraints for import, export, or sale. And interestingly, if you combine terpenes, botanical terpenes, with CBD, it enhances the entourage effect, even with CBD isolate, where there typically is no there is no entourage effect. So, I mean, I've got these groups of lawyers all over the world that are really getting on board here because they think this is a great way to help their CBD clients who are facing all these regulatory headwinds. It's a way to sort of get around the regulation and provide many of the same health and wellness benefits. And
So
then,
how
yeah,
how are you taking oranges and grapes and giving me the same effects as CBD? How the heck does that work?
well, uh, if you were a cannabis connoisseur, and I'm presuming you're not,
I've
but
went to college. Let me just
yeah,
say that. I've been to
okay,
college.
okay. So many people choose their cannabis strains based on terpene profile. So you've probably heard of profile. You've heard of terpenes called like train wreck or grape ape or
Mm,
ACDs. Maybe you've heard of those things.
maybe.
Yeah, right. So we've been able to actually recreate those terpenes almost on a molecule by molecule basis using other plants and vegetables and fruit without using CBD or cannabis. So that's why. So we offer the same kind of effect. So if you were to take, for example, a cannabis um, train wreck terpene, you'd get very stoned, but you'd also get a lot of energy.
Hmm.
For us, for our botanical terpene, you'd get energy, but there's no
Hmm.
psychotropic effect. On the other end of the spectrum, we have something called grape ape. Grape ape has a grape flavor, but it also delivers a feeling of calm. And what we've been doing for athletes is we've been mixing terpenes with protein so that one can take the energy inducing terpenes with protein prior to a workout, or or the calming terpenes combined with protein after the workout.
Hmm.
So it's interesting. And then, of course, if somebody has, less of somebody has an interest in a little more risk, we can add CBD to the mix. So it's interesting. It's a We have lots of athletes that swear by our teams because it provides some energy, calm, and then of course when you add them to protein, you've got the whole concept of muscle repair.
That's amazing. Good
I
for
bet
you
you
guys.
didn't know. Bet you didn't know I was going there with that.
I had no
I,
idea, honestly. I
okay.
had zero idea. I think that is
Yeah.
incredible. And I think, especially considering again how athletes can take advantage of all of these technological advances, for lack of a better term, that you guys have been able to come up with and now be able to utilize them in such an easy way. As you said, you can pour it in your chicken soup, you can pour it in your iced
Yeah.
tea, and you can get everything exactly as you need it. I think that's very much a game changer. So I think that
Yeah.
is pretty
Yeah.
incredible, Dean.
Well,
Good stuff.
we do have a CBD protein product that we're about to introduce under our new brand name. Our new brand is called SIGH, and it uses plant-based chocolate flavored terpene with 10 milligrams of CBD. So each serving delivers 16 grams of protein and 10 milligrams of CBD. You put it in a shaker jar like you would use after the gym. You shake it up. You can put any kind of liquid you want in it, and it tastes great. And it offers many of the same. Well, it offers the benefits of CBD, but also the benefits of protein at the same time, and it tastes really good. So
So
we're happy with that.
what is the added effect? Maybe you said it and it went right over my head. What's the added effect of taking the CBD and the proteins at the same time?
Well, what it does is well, the CBD offers the effect of either calm or energy, depending
Hmm.
on when you take it.
Yep.
Um, and CBD offers aid with pain, inflammation, muscle repair, anxiety, stress,
Hmm.
etc. And then, of course, protein offers muscle repair.
Mhm.
So when you combine those things, you get a variety of benefits all in one good tasting drink
There we go. The
or good
convenience
tasting beverage.
beverage, yes, or chicken
Yes.
soup.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
true. I'm not sure how I'd feel about putting chocolate protein powder in chicken soup,
How about this, Dean?
but I
You
guess you
send me
could.
some. You send me some. I'll tell you how it is. How's that sound?
I will. I'd be happy to.
I love it. So I think terpenes is absolutely incredible. It sounds like again, you guys have figured something out. You guys and girls over there have figured something out that is really going to affect a lot of people in a positive way. And we're talking about athletes, and we're really talking about the entire gamut, right? We can talk about the NFL, the NBA, the MLB athletes that, NFL athletes go through a car accident every single week essentially on their
Yeah.
bodies, right?
Mhm.
And so CBD has the opportunity to affect them. We've seen and heard so many of these athletes are addicted to opioids very early on in their careers because it's the only thing that they can do. Because if they smoke a little weed, they're going to get kicked out of the league and not make any money. So they're
Right.
taking what is they have to essentially take at some point. So it is pretty disappointing again if there's a way to fix a lot of these things with something that is plant-based, that is something as easy of use as you're making it seem. I think there's only positives that can come from it. And I think that leads just to the last topic I want to discuss a little bit is so many athletes now investing in CBD companies, right? We saw Rob Gronkowski. I think he was one of the first big ones after he left the NFL. I think it was CBD MD.
Right.
Baker Mayfield, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
just invested a significant amount of money. I think there's a bunch of NBA players
Yeah.
that just kind of went in on a seed company. I can't remember the exact details. We can figure that out later. But with that being said, and having so many of these just huge athletes getting behind this type of product and this industry in particular, how much do you think that's going to open other people's eyes? And how much do you think that's going to accelerate the process of just needing to get that awareness and needing to get into enough people's faces to understand, hey, if these athletes are taking it, I'm sure it's fine for that guy again who wants to run that 5K on the weekend, but his knees hurt afterwards, right? Like, how quickly do you think this just having these athletes in the market is going to accelerate and push forward again that growth that we were talking about
Yeah, I
before?
mean, I think it will accelerate the growth. I mean, the celebrity endorsements will help, and celebrity endorsements for something that's contextual will
Hmm.
help for somebody that's participating in that activity. So I definitely think it'll help, and I suspect that the reason athletes are doing this is because number one, they think it's a good investment, and number two, they probably had
Hmm.
experience using it, and they've used it as an alternative to prescribed medication, specifically opioids, and they find that it works well for them. But it's non-addictive and non-psychotropic, and not illegal. So anyway,
Or helps.
yeah, that helps. It helps. Now, I mean, ultimately, I think that CBD will be clarified by the FDA, which will mean the market will explode even more. I think that ultimately THC is going to be will be federally recognized, but we're not there yet. In the interim, people should choose CBD or THC products that they feel comfortable with. They should choose brands that deliver what they promise. And in our case, we think we offer the highest quality and products that deliver what we say. So we feel like we're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I think so. Sounds like you got into the right spot at the right time.
I agree.
Did a lot of work to get there, but hey,
A
you're here
lot,
now.
a lot of work. I mean, I've been involved in lots of categories, and everybody says, "Oh, this business is different." This business really is different, and not necessarily different good, but different challenging. And I think that as we overcome these challenges, it makes our growth and our success even sweeter.
I love it. I love it. Sweet like chocolate, right? Sweet like
Like
chocolate.
like chocolate protein CBD. Yes, sigh.
Love it, love it, love it. Dean,
I
where
will send you samples.
I appreciate that. I'm excited to try it. I'm very excited to try it. I've tried CBD before, but it was like shitty, like gas station CBD. So I actually want to see what it's actually like. I think that would be kind of cool.
Sure.
I'd be all for that. So I appreciate that, Dean. But in case anybody else wants to go and buy some of your products, where can they find it?
Well, they can actually contact me directly at Dean at TabBrands. Our As I mentioned, our brand, our Psy brand, uh, is going to be ready in roughly 2 weeks.
Okay.
So if they contact me, then I can get back in touch and tell them where to get it. We're doing direct to consumer sales.
Mhm.
We are not going through gas stations or dispensaries or
Good.
one of the problems with the way that CBD is being marketed is it's often being marketed by people that don't have, let's say, a sophisticated awareness of what the product offers. And my sense as a marketer is I'd like to be able to control the communication.
Hmm.
I'd like to be able to have the relationship with the consumer, because I suspect I can probably do a better job than the guy in the gas station, for example.
I like that. You already did. I've only been with you for 35 minutes and you did a significantly better job than that guy did.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I love it. Awesome. Dean, anywhere else people can find you online? Any other
They
web?
can, yeah,
Where?
they can find me at TabBrands.com. Our sci website is not up yet, but it will be. But TabBrands.com, and I'm all over social media. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, and they can reach me there too.
I love it.
So, and if somebody is interested in TabBrands, we could put them on our private TabBrands Facebook page,
Mm.
because there are constraints as to how one can promote and market this stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
But Dina TabBrands is probably the best way to go.
I love it. I'll make sure to have all those links in the show notes. Dean, this was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your insight into the world of CBD and athletes, and
Thank you.
hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dean, and thanks everybody out there.
Appreciate it. Take care.